Welcome to OJ Health Radio. I'm your host, Ollie Matthews, a health coach, functional medicine healthcare provider, nutrition therapist, and elite personal trainer who has worked with clients all over the world, from high-achieving entrepreneurs, busy professionals, and world champion athletes. We're going to dive into the depths of health to find out how you will be able to reach your peak performance and truly become the revitalizer that you deserve to be. Covering topics around all things health, from the mind and body to lifestyle optimization and movement, along with getting elite business experts on to talk through your business health at the same time. We really do have all areas covered to help you succeed once and for all. No excuses necessary. It's time to become a revitalizer. Remember what we always say, your body is your business. And without a sustainable body, you haven't got a sustainable or scalable business. So get strapped in, get ready to take your body, your mindset, relationships, and business to the next level. Hello and welcome to another OJ Health Radio show. Now, today I've got the first guest we've had on for a while, but a guy that we've connected a few times on LinkedIn and then in person a few times. And actually, I invested in one of his products a few weeks back, and it's been an absolutely awesome investment. And this guy, Floyd Sayers, from Flomotion
Studios.
Flomotion Studio, we're providing standing desks, ergonomical chairs and solutions that I think that we are really, really in need of now as a society, not just because people are working from home, but just the awareness of what sitting does to our health, what even standing all the time does to our health, that we really, really need this in society. So Floyd, thank you so much for joining me here.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No worries, no worries. Now tell me, what is the history of Flomotion? And you've touched on it with me a little bit before, but why standing desks? Why are you in your studio with all the standing desks, and where has this come from?
Okay, so my background is in graphics. I've been sitting for decades as a graphic designer. Not once did we ever have a conversation in the workplace around posture, ergonomics, any of that stuff. So all of this developed into musculoskeletal issues about 7 years ago. I had sciatica, I had lower back pain, I had neck pain, all the things that people normally get. And what we do is we go and see a physio, we get a quick fix, and then we go back to our normal routine. So I wanted to break that. And I said to my partner, I've got to change the way I'm working. I keep getting these things, I fix it. And, I think it's to do with sitting and the sedentary way of working. So I started to do the research, and all the roads pointed to there being a history of people sitting and standing. So it's not about standing, it's about sitting. Using desks, going back 200 years. So it's not a new thing in that respect. The Scandinavians are probably ahead of the curve when it comes to sit-stand desks. It's part of their culture, it's part of their health and well-being. So that's where I looked, did my research. I had about 6 months worth of research. And my daughter needed a project for her A-levels. She's studying product design. And I said to her, look, why don't you need a project. Why don't you design me a sit-stand desk? So she took the stuff away, came back and said, yeah, I think that's, that'll be great. And it was easy because I know I could be her client, so I could give her feedback. So we came up with a design. It was a one-off design. It was like a bean shape, and it had drawers. And I said, I want this, this. And she built it and got, top marks for that. So while she was designing that, Bev and I said, we think there's an idea here for a business. The other business had come to its end, and we were really looking for some new ideas. So I said, I think there's something here. Let's see what Amber does. Let's go and find a supplier for these desks. So that's where we ended up in Scandinavia. And it all came together. So when we launched, I knew that to put Amber front facing as part of the launch would be what the press would be, they'd pick up on that. Young designer starts up business with her parents. So it was great for her because she was being interviewed on the radio. She was on, I think, Mustard TV, which no longer exists. She was in the EDP. So that was on the back of that. That's how we launched. And it's been an amazing 7 years. It really has. So that was that was the start of Flomotion.
That's an awesome story to be part of, and I'm sure that you're pretty proud of. Like, you solved the problem and made a business.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have that sort of thing going on. But with your problems, when you said about issues you were having from sitting all the time,
yeah,
when you switched to a standing desk or sit-stand desk, however we want to say it,
yeah,
how long did it take you before you started thinking, actually, this is a good investment? It makes a difference.
So I've always felt that the sit-stand desk was the first step on a journey. And since then, I've discovered it's not really about sit-stand. For me, that was the first step. Mm-hmm. But with sitting and standing, you then have to layer it with, okay, well, how long do I sit for? How long do I stand for? You've got to get that right balance. When I'm doing certain stuff, sometimes I feel better if I'm standing. Sometimes I feel better when I'm sitting. So all of those things need to play out. If I'm designing, then I'll sit down. Mm-hmm. If I'm doing other things like writing, I'll stand up. So I've worked out the best thing to be doing, sitting or standing. So the next thing is, and a lot of people fall into this, is they're not taught how to do either of these things properly. And I've always felt that that's where there's a gap. So I can do so much. We can set them up. I can give them information about all this stuff. And unless you're interested and engaged, and maybe you go and do a workshop or you take up Pilates or yoga or something to learn about your posture, people sort of plateau quite early on.
Yeah.
So, but I carried on that journey because that's my business. So I really dug deep into the whole thing around posture and movement and all of these other things. So I would say, and when you talk about it, I say sit, stand and move always in that sentence. So it's sitting, it's standing. Your best posture is your next one, which is a great quote from a guy that designs these amazing chairs. And that really resonates with me because it's true. 30 or 40 minutes and our body is starting to crave movement. But we ignore that because we're so focused on, this computer in front of us, and we disengage our minds from our bodies. So that's been a really important lesson. So
yeah. I can definitely resonate with that when you say about different tasks, because when did you guys come? I think it was start of August. I think you came in. About a month. Yeah. I've had this desk now.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I've done before is had the adjusters on the desk.
Yeah.
But then they were too kind of big and clunky. And then I would lift it up and then I would see underneath how much dust. Is like, oh, that's horrible. And then I got another one, which was just to raise and lower the keyboard.
Right.
But then I had to change the camera and my monitors. The monitors were on arms, but it was just essentially laziness. But just having the button to go up and down is really, really powerful. And I think, as you say, you get used to different tasks.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that if I'm typing a lot and doing a client program as such, like doing their assessment or something, like typing sitting down when I have to really think about it seems to be much better. Or if I'm editing a video or that sort of thing, I was just editing a course that I've got coming out, and that needs to be sitting down.
Right. Yeah.
But pretty much all my client calls now are standing up.
Yeah. And you're moving.
Yeah, exactly.
The same. I'm this sideways movement. So the standing, I think you naturally do that. And I think that's a great part of that getting your body to move. Okay, we're talking about low level movement here, but even that little bit, if people are just going to sit and stand, that's better than just sitting.
Oh yeah.
Just that. Yeah. So that's an easy win, but we'll go on to talk a little bit more, and I'll expand about the movement and the exercise and some of the other stuff.
Well, one thing I've always noticed, that being into strength and conditioning over the years and being a trainer and a performance coach before I came into the functional medicine side and as a nutritionist as well.
Yeah.
The way we move was always a massive fascination to me.
Yeah.
And one of the things was when we looked, like, say you're standing in a queue at a shop, that as like the Brits love to queue, as we always see, we don't know what we're queuing for. We'll just queue for no reason. But you see people and you're constantly moving. You never stand equally on two legs as such, because you're constantly putting pressure onto your left and then to the right. And we kind of relax that. And I noticed that when I'm standing up and I'm speaking, there's more emotion that also goes into it.
Yeah.
I may have hand movements when I'm sitting down, but if I was going to give a public speaking presentation, I wouldn't do that sitting from a chair.
Yeah.
And my emotions come into it more.
Yeah.
I may move backwards from the microphone and it might be annoying for my podcast editor or something like that. But it's definitely something which I've noticed that it helps me engage the right muscles.
Yeah.
And also it tells me where I'm fatiguing as well. Yeah. And I need to work on stamina. So it might be that I find myself going over like this. Like if I get really interested in a client, I might go over like this.
Okay, I'll look out for that.
Yeah. Like, it's not to say that I'm not interested when I'm just standing up. But like when our shoulder blades start, our posture, we start going over and we see where we're tight. And I can see it when some clients have their standing desks and you can see their posture and it automatically tells me what we need to work on.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
So what does make a good setup? Because I know you came in and we took the arms off my chair. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that was comfy just sitting there, just relaxing like that. But what does make a good setup? Like, obviously, we've got a video here, but it's going to be more audio that people will consume this content.
Okay. So I think, that was a sort of next step when I started to look into the whole thing. So I've got my desk, we're using it. I probably had it for about 3 months, sitting, standing. That's all great, And then that leads into ergonomics. And ergonomics, in a nutshell, is user-focused, centered design. It's how we arrange our space, it's how we arrange our equipment, it's how we use it. And this all ties into the best use of our body's relationship with that piece of equipment, whatever that may be. And then, there are experts who just do ergonomics. So they'll look at your height, they'll take some measurements. They'll look at your posture when you're sitting. They'll look at your chair. Is it giving you the right support? They'll look at how you use your keyboard, your mouse, the height of your monitor. All of these things all play into ergonomics. So that's quite important because we give our customers that information. A lot of companies, when people started to work from home, had to go through a process where it was literally a tick box exercise to ensure that all the equipment being used from home, met all the regulations. But that was literally a kind of tick box exercise for a lot of companies. So some of the ergonomists that we work with, they will literally have a video call for about 40 minutes, talking you through all of this stuff. And that's really the way it should be done. Trip hazards, all sorts of things. So that's the ergonomics. And then I started to get into posture. And that led on to, taking breaks every 40 minutes. And then I researched something called Pomodoro, which also talks about having these breaks. And
is that like the deep work method?
Well, Pomodoro is where, you sort of, you partition your working day into 30, 40-minute chunks.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah. So the research shows that, we can concentrate for about 40 minutes, deep work, and then we need a break. So I thought, I can use that, sit or stand for 40 minutes, then you need a break. So that's where the micro snacking, 2 or 3 minutes. And then I thought, if I had to pick 4 things, what would those 4 things be for people working in an office? And it's movement, and that can be a simple exercise, to get your heart rate up. We know, that's a good thing to be doing.
Exactly.
Hydration. People don't drink enough. And I know we've discussed this separately. We just do not drink enough. So we're not hydrated. And that, that leads into all sorts of other issues. And then the other thing was stretching. And when I talk about stretching, it's sort of like start from your head. Maybe in the morning, you work on some stretches for your neck and your shoulders. And then in the afternoon, maybe you do some floor stretching. And work on your lower back and, your hips. Really simple. These are all available. You just have to search it. And for people that sit, there are some great little exercises to do that will prevent the damage that comes from sitting. So that's really the sort of basic information that I tell people. Hydrate, move, get some exercise in there, stretch. And then the other thing, which I forgot, which is a big thing, is breathing.
Oh, yeah.
People do not breathe well when, unless they've learned a breathing technique. A lot of people are shallow breathers in the chest. And that was something I learned. So those are what I talk about all the time. And then you lay that onto the sit-stand desk moving. And that for me is, got the basic components for, I talk about health and well-being. It's right there when you're doing all those things.
I think touching on the breathing side of things, it's something which, because the course that I'm now putting out is the Brain Fog Blitz. So we're going to do 21 days where there's 3 different weeks of different videos that people are going to be able to watch and then tasked to implement. And I talk about breathing in there, but something that I didn't even think about until you just said that with relation to the sit-stand desk is that if we are sitting and we don't have good upright posture, even when we're sitting, we're compressing our rib cage and our lungs.
Yeah.
But here, I'm able to breathe better.
Yeah.
And I find also that when I meditate, if I meditate laying down, but if I sit on the sofa, I don't feel as good in meditation.
Yeah.
And one thing I've actually started doing the last few weeks, or let's say last few months, is a thing called Yoga Nidra. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's a form of meditation. It's not actually actual yoga in the terms of stretching. Mm-hmm. It's otherwise known as non-sleep deep rest, so NSDR. And there's a person called Ali Boothroyd. I love her scripts that she has on YouTube. It's totally free for people to use. Right. And she's got 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I think, all the way up to like 2-3 hours. So you can pick how long you have.
Yeah.
But you're laying there and you completely, people say they can't meditate because things go in and out of their mind. But she gets you to do your breathing and how we activate our vagus nerve and the vagal tone when we're breathing, and also activate the rest and digest side of things when it comes to our nervous system. But then you focus on a certain body part.
Yeah.
So she'll say, focus on the tip of your tongue, then the root of your tongue, lower lip, upper lip, air coming through your nostrils. And the other day when I done one, I didn't realize I actually done 2 in a row because I fell asleep. It's so regular. Like I've been putting like afternoon naps in, and like really, how can I totally optimize my schedule and my routine? But I went to do a 20-minute one, and I woke up after doing a 25-minute one. So I was like, hang on a second. I started on 20 minutes and I've obviously gone through doing a 25-minute. But just that actual effective breathing, like going to sleep, and people have said things like mouth taping when you're in bed. Oh, that's extreme. It may well seem extreme, but I think it's actually more extreme not being able to breathe properly.
Yeah.
And like we're seeing more and more people having sleep apnea than I think ever before, both diagnosed and undiagnosed. And that's kind of like not even necessarily people that are overweight, but people that are just stressed.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the desk setup has really got something to do with that. Not necessarily just the desk setup. We have to also take into account the society that what everyone has been through over the last few years with pandemic and working from home, not working from home, going back into the office, and potential fear factors around people wanting to go back and not wanting to go back and integrating with society. But have you noticed anything trend-wise? Like we're seeing stories about people always working from home. Has it still been that people are working from home, or are offices potentially getting better at equipping for their employees?
It's a mixed picture. If you go, lots of conversations on LinkedIn around this, and it's frustrating because it's still this thing about going into the office versus working from home. And these polarized sides are set up against each other. And all these comments, I just keep saying, and I said this 2 years ago, and other people are also saying it. If you can, the best case scenario is, for me, flexi working.
Yep.
Where you've got the best of both worlds. I think people still need an office to go into, because I think that's where you get the culture and you also learn. You know, if you're a graduate, you don't want to be stuck at home 5 days a week working from your bedroom.
No.
I can't think of anything worse, off a laptop, off a sofa, whatever. So I think for me, flexi working, hybrid working, whatever you want to call it, is the key. The second conversation around that is obviously security, and you've got the right equipment, and trust, because companies have to trust you to be doing the work. So there's and it's all playing out, and I think a lot of companies are in a place now where they've embraced flexi working, and a lot of people will leave if that's taken away from them. Because I know a lot of people that do not want to go back to commuting 5 days a week. So the other conversation around that is, if you're working from home, you need a routine. Whether you're going into the office, it's easier if you're working from home because you can make your own routine. So I say to people, get up, get dressed, have your breakfast, go for a walk, and then go back 10, 20 minutes later in work mode. So it's as if you've left and you're now entering the office. It's an easy thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're in work mode and do the Pomodoro technique. Do not get distracted with, this is where the procrastination comes in. Oh, I'll just put the dishwasher on. I'll just do that. I'll just do that. These are avoidance tactics to not do the work. So I think people need to be quite focused here. Get the work done, 2 Pomodoros, 90 minutes, in between a short break. And then maybe you have a slightly longer break where you do that sort of stuff, catch up on your phone or whatever.
I think that having the right setup at home also helps. Having a room where you can shut the door. Oh, yeah. I remember when I first went self-employed and left the corporate world, I had my laptop and I was working on the dining table. I was working on the sofa. Hadn't really set up, we had a spare room upstairs, but there was a bed and a wardrobe in it. Yeah. And then eventually I got a desk up there, and that was great because I could shut the door on work. Now, as you'll know, having your own company, and obviously mine's a coaching company as well, and I work with a lot of people in the States, is that it is very hard to switch off when it comes to work. And I have this hard switch off of 8 to 8:15 of technology, that I'm not going to do a call after that time. Now, I've got clients on West Coast of US and they're 8 hours behind. So they know that midday that they can message me as much as they want, but WhatsApps will be replied the next day. And I think the big thing is that switch off time. When you're working from home, it's easy to get drawn into, I'll just work a little bit extra because I haven't got that commute and switching tasking off. And I found that was a massive difference. I don't know whether it was just because of the fact I went from the corporate world working for someone to working for myself. Right. That was a long while ago in 2013, 14 now. So it's been a big transitional period. Yeah. But also I think you touched on something there about still getting movement in, that sometimes people can say, I haven't got to commute, but people might get 10,000 steps commuting to and from work every day. Mm-hmm. So then we've got the aspect of people living a more sedentary lifestyle because they're working from home. But however, if that home environment is also a happier environment, are they going to be more productive as well?
So, and I think and you know this, as well as I do, for all of this to work, people have to get into a routine. Yep. They have to have formulated a plan. They have to have a routine. They can't rely on willpower. That will only get you so far. So a regular routine. Now, the morning walk is an easy win. An afternoon walk is something you can do when you're working from home, mm-hmm. lunchtime or after work. So 10,000 steps, I know the history behind the 10,000 steps. It's arbitrary, but it's actually a good target to aim for. It's a good
target, yeah.
Yeah. And then the theory is that you do more than that. As you build up, you end up doing more. And what you don't do when you're walking is you do not, you're not on your phone.
So I see quite a lot of people now that they are. Yeah. They're like walking and it's like, hang on, there's a car there, by the way.
That's right. Put your phone away. That's not doing you any favors when it comes to your posture. Put it away. Have a look around. And vary the pace of that walk as well. Because a slightly higher intensity is going to bring you more benefits in a short period of time. So I would also say try and get your heart rate up when you do your walk. But I think when you're working from home, you can start to... So we've got loads of equipment here. We've got bands, we've got gloves, we've got an exercise bike, we've got mats, we've got free weights. And I encourage everybody to do the 30, 40 minutes, have a break, do some simple weights, get your heart rate up, even running on the spot, whatever that is, mix it up, make it interesting. We've even got a mini trampoline, and a skipping rope, all that stuff. This isn't expensive equipment, It doesn't matter how small your office is. You can have some of this stuff lying around. So all of this, I found were the areas that I started to look into when I was saying, what are the 5 or 6 things that are going to help me, and it's not just sitting or standing. So that was a journey that I went on. And now you read that post that I put up on LinkedIn where I was talking to my cousin and I was, like a white knight because I wanted to save him from this whole sedentary working thing. That little episode taught me so much because it's taken me 7 years to get to where I am now. Looking at this stuff, reading books, researching, practicing it. Suddenly I was dumping 7 years worth of stuff onto him. He said I was stressing him out. It was overwhelming. So every time it's always about if you're going to start, what's the baseline level that you can do that's easy, simple, and repetitive? What is that? And every individual has to work that out themselves.
I find that with clients about that, like there's a client that started last month and she said, I want to do this and that. I'm like, great. Okay, we'll just start with this one thing. No, I want to do more. Yeah, but you'll be overwhelmed. No, I won't. And then 2 weeks later, we got the message because she's overwhelmed. Right, let's start with the one thing. Right. And it's surprised, like we say about walking. Now, I'm dealing with people that are stressed out and obviously want to hit their peak performance. They want to get back to how they used to feel, sleep through the night, get rid of the brain fog and manage stress better. And a lot of the times, if people come to me for those sorts of things, they might then have a weight loss goal as well. And they've been stuck losing weight. And then they get the frustration that they're actually doing loads of CrossFit or smashing the running, doing some weight training like 5-6 days a week, and they're not seeing the results. And when I say to them, okay, we're just going to walk for a couple of weeks. What? Like, we underestimate how beneficial walking is, or just moving, like on the actual central nervous system. If we're in a stressed state and we add this overly stressed work, the body doesn't see exercise and see it as a good stress. In fact, this might be a controversial thought, but I saw a post from The Rock today. Now, I'm one of The Rock's biggest fans, as you can imagine. Right. Used to love wrestling, like weight training. Like, I'm still waiting on the next lot of his trainers to drop because I need a new pair of trainers. And I've got like the last like 3 or 4 like releases that they've had. But anyway, saying about his weight training in the evening, and I use it as a decompression. And we're seeing celebrities saying like this weight training is a decompression from a highly stressed state, from a highly stressed day. Weight training, especially at the intensity that we see The Rock doing it, is not a decompression. It might be a release from the day's stresses where we take it out of ourselves, but we're fighting fire with fire. We have a stressful day. And especially if we if we're having sleep problems and we go to the gym at 6, 7 p.m. and we're smashing a hard session, our cortisol levels are going to be higher. Our stress levels are going to be higher. It's going to impact our routine to sleep. That walk that we say about could actually be so much more beneficial.
Definitely.
After a stressful day, just to unwind, release, get out into like some wooded area. Like, I'm lucky where I live that I'm in, as you know where I live, but I'm in the city centre. But there's a Lionwood is like 5 minutes walk away, and I can walk there, get on my bike, 10 minutes, I'm into the countryside. And I think we underestimate sometimes the power of going slow. And I think that's powerful. And
it is. And it's interesting because that resonates with me through the practice of Qigong. So I've been doing Qigong now for about 3 years. And in Qigong, Qigong, if you're talking about yin and yang, hard and soft in terms of, say, exercise, so you can go to the gym, do the weights and everything. You can refer to that as a hard form of training. Qigong, slow, breathing, mindfulness, meditation, soft. So the soft side was the part that I was missing, And once I got that, I realized that. So Qigong, if you're doing something, you only ever give it 70%. You never train, never like go crazy 100%. It's all slow. But the interesting thing is that all of the things that I've learned, it's almost as if it's a philosophy to put things in place on a regular basis, 6-7 times a day, with the hydration, the breathing, the exercise. So it doesn't build up into a toxic level of stress. So if I'm stressed, and I'm having problems, I'll take 2 or 3 minutes. I'll sit down. With Qigong, you do everything standing. Or I'll stand. I'll go through the shake, which is one of the things you do in Qigong, and I'll do some deep breathing, a routine. 5 minutes, that has reset my, where I was in my head. That resets it. Yeah. So part of what I sort of say to people is, if you do these things, then it will only help you. So all of these things don't build up into one big thing, and then you've got to go and whatever it is, smash it after work, or So that's the sort of philosophy I take when I'm talking to my customers. Obviously, your customers, they're on another level in terms of their stress and startups and CEOs and everything.
But it's still relevant though. Like it's massively relevant because they're also these highly driven people that need to slow down to speed up. Yeah. But we're getting people like there's this challenge. I don't know if you've heard of the 75 hard challenge, where we can't work out 3 times a week. So we're going to do 2 workouts a day, every single day for 75 days. And we're not going to have alcohol. We're not going to eat a cheat meal. We're going to read 10 pages a day and hydrate a certain amount. And then if you fall off, you go back to day 1. Yeah. So there's an egotistical side to it as well. Mm-hmm. Part of the 5 a.m. club and all these sorts of things. And I think I've definitely I'm 36, but if you'd have told me 10 years ago when I was bodybuilding, competing, that I would need to chill out more and go for more walks, I'd have been like, whatever. I'm just going to smash the gym. Yeah. So I totally get that. And it's not sexy to take a picture, to put on social media to say, I've just done a 20-minute walk. But it is to say, I've just done a 250 kilo deadlift. And I think it's actually interesting. I've done, have you heard of your gene keys?
No.
So it's one of my friends, one of my best mates. We've been mates since like 6th form. She's very spiritual. And I was talking about some energy side of things and keeping in charge of my own energy. And I'm a high sensitive person, so I absorb people's energy that I'm around. She's like, have you done your gene keys? Yeah. There's a free test. And it tells you about the things that you have, your time of birth, date of birth, place of birth, and name. And it works out all these things about you. My role in life, according to that, is to be a teacher, which is so apt as to like the career path that I'm on. And hence that being on that career path, I'm happy and I love it. And I get recharged when I see the results. Yeah. Also saying about watching out for desires and because sometimes you might have desires to impress people rather than to be healthy and to be yourself. Yeah. And I think it's so powerful when we look deeper into these things. I've lost my train of thought as to why I was going on to that topic.
That is. And I think I say to people, if I've got a superpower, it's the fact that I'm curious. I'm curious in all of this stuff. I'm curious about how bad was my posture? What was causing it? How can I fix it? Okay. And we talked about this already, some of the things that can help us, in the workplace. And that's where our focus is. It's really in the office. It's in the workplace. Yeah. What can we do? And I think it's almost sometimes I feel that work has been designed to the detriment of our health and well-being. There are so many aspects of work that if you think about how we've evolved, hunter-gatherers and, crawling, climbing, throwing, running, all of these things, which we just don't do anymore. So, it's sort of looking at all of this stuff and just getting some of that back, putting it into the workplace environment. And that's where companies need to look at their culture, because they need to be encouraging this, have an active working policy. And, if you want to take 2 or 3 minutes to go and do a little stretch or some exercise, people aren't going to look at you as if you're, from another planet.
Well, yeah. And you're seeing in Sweden where they've done like the 4-day work week.
4-day work week, yeah.
And actually there's more productivity working over 4 days than 5.
And there's quite a lot of there's a thing going on in the UK around that. But I just wanted to mention one thing, and that's partly my industry, sits down active working industry. So I've got a friend, she's an ergonomist, and she was being interviewed on one of those daytime TV channels. And she was talking about sit-down desks and chairs and everything. And I I saw it on YouTube, and then I looked at the comments, and it was really interesting because I printed it out. So here are some of them. Standing in the same spot for a long period causes back, knee, and swollen ankles. Okay. No one who's in the business would ever recommend that you stand for, standing for too long equally is just as bad as sitting.
Yep.
So,
Let's add in that movement in.
I have a part-time job where I'm on my feet for 12 hours. It takes me a day to recover.
Wow.
Right. Okay. Sorry about that, but, and some people, is this real? When are we going standing at your desk? The word's gone totally mad. And then people saying it must be April the 1st.
They're saying the world's gone totally mad because people are standing at their desk.
I thought it must be April the 1st. How long do you stand for? Someone mentioned plantar fasciitis. And then somebody said all the big companies will be happy as they can now save money buying office chairs for employees. You just go, you don't have to pay for your own chair. So they've watched that program. She's talking about sit-stand desks, right? I think a lot of these people think, okay, well, these are standing desks. You're going to be forced to stand for 7 hours. They're going to take your chair away. All of these things. Now that, to me, is a problem with communication. And we're not, even now, we're still not getting the correct information across. Even now, and this has been going...
There is communication, but also there's headlines. What was the title of the video?
It says, is standing at your desk really better for your health? And then she goes on to so like some people, like I think we've seen over the last few years, my personal view is that people are good at reading headlines and not good at reading articles. And the headline is the thing that sells. So has that headline been developed to get people to comment, to help, I don't know, like with the algorithm or something like that. But one of the things that I've noticed with the clients I get the most, like the best results with, they've taken responsibility for their health where it's at right now. Yeah.
And like something I say to people, and I don't mean it in a harsh way, is that whatever you've been through in the past, like whether that's you've had poor genetics and there's sickness been, and you had a poor upbringing, and there's been trauma, lost a parent like myself, like maybe domestic abuse and all this sort of thing. Whatever you've been through in your past, like that's not your fault, but your reaction to it now is your choice to get caught up. But I could be caught up still, even though it's 21 years ago this year that my dad died, but I use it to help other people. And the same thing, you could be caught up with some things that you've been around, but we use it, we take responsibility for it, and we help other people. Sometimes is it that people are just doing things for a response. Like I've put videos on TikTok and things, and they're like, oh, but that's wrong, this is wrong. And like people like to do it to get a response. Or I done one on migraines, and they were like, oh, there's no such thing as a migraine. You just got a headache, just take some paracetamol. Right. And I went, well, thank you. I appreciate your in-depth comment there. And I'm so glad you don't suffer from migraines. And people will do things, I think, just to kind of spark a response. And there's like, so, but yeah, I do think that people do need to know that I'm not standing all the time.
No,
but
no.
Like we've put it on memory, and it takes like, hang on. So I'm going to go down and come back up, not get my seat. Yeah. But so that was going down. So it like literally that to get down to the level that I'm supposed to be at when I sit. It's like 10, 15 seconds, right?
Yeah.
That it takes to go down and come back up if you want to change your position.
Yeah.
So we can do it. So we've gone off on a tangent. We said we would.
Yes, it always happens.
Our 20-minute show has gone on for like 40 minutes or so.
Okay.
But yeah, I really appreciate you coming on and talking about this. Like, one of the things that we've met a few times now, it's just some good conversations when we have met. And I love to see the impact you're having. Now, where can people not just find the desks, but also if they have you got any kind of courses on ergonomics and how to set it up? Like, do you do anything other than with people that have set up the desk?
I do work with companies, and I go in and I deliver workshops around sit-stand active working. It's something now that we come out of COVID, I'm going to be pushing a bit more. And it also applies to people who haven't got the desk, because a lot of this stuff is still relevant. You can still, if you've got a static sitting desk, you can still set your time and you can still get up after 40 minutes. You can still go and do a little walk, do a stretch, all those other things you can still do. So that's something that I'm going to start promoting, the workshops, because I really love doing those. And you mentioned a course. I'm working on an online course. I don't know what format it would take at the moment. It's in the planning stage, and we've got a word. I'm going to announce it on your program. We've come up with a new word to describe it, and it's called Flonomics.
Nice.
So it takes the word flow from Flomotion, and then I've added the word from ergonomics. So Flonomics is that's going to go into this course, because I know we haven't touched on it, but if you take the desk and the active working, and then part of that is so that's you in your environment. The other thing is there are so many things we can do with our environment, and that's where that's where the biophilic design comes in. So that's where I think people can really start to do some amazing work to improve their health and well-being. Look at the active working, look at all the things we've discussed, and then start to bring in that biophilic design. So, fresh air, light, art, colour, all those things. And then I think you can, we've all got the power
plants in as well.
Plants, yeah, it's all part of that. You've got the opportunity to create an amazing space. And it's even easier if you work from home, because then, you've got full control over that workspace. So those are the areas that we're going into, and that's quite exciting because, that's for me is the really interesting stuff. Yeah.
And what's the website? Is it flomotionstudio.co.uk? Flomotion Studio, and it's FLO Motion.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no W on there, and I'll put that in the show notes.
Brilliant. But one last thing: if people have got a limited budget, search desk risers, search bamboo desk risers. You'll see them on Amazon. You can pick them up for about £80. They click together, and you're standing. So whatever entry level, whatever your budget, you can access this. And then if you like it and you've given it a try, you can then go on to buying a desk riser or a desk. So, but don't ignore it. Mm-hmm. People are watching this. Don't just say, there's nothing in this for me. Research it, look at it, look at the facts, look at the data, and come to your own conclusion by doing that.
I'd definitely say it's a worthwhile investment. And one of the things as well that it might be a bit more to go with you than some of the desks that we had this discussion on Amazon, but the quality has been much better. The service of getting the desk you actually want. And so I would highly recommend, if it's in your budget, to go to Flomotion Studio and speak with Floyd and the guys there, because you got me set up for exactly what I needed. So yeah,
brilliant.
I appreciate
that. That means a lot. Thank you.
And thank you for being on the podcast.
Yes,
and hopefully the listeners have got some good information. I've definitely enjoyed having the chat, our 20-minute chat. Cool, thank you.
I always learn stuff when I talk to you, so it's been good.
It's the same the other way as well. Thank you, Floyd.
All right, cheers, Ollie.